Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we're bringing you a massive, honestly urgent wake-up call about a role that is shifting beneath our feet faster than almost anything else in tech right now. If you're anywhere near the world of digital products, you absolutely need to pay attention, because the product management role as we've known it, it's disappearing. Today we're breaking down The Leverage Shift, a guide to product management in the AI era. It's a truly fascinating look at how artificial intelligence isn't just changing the software tools we use on a daily basis, but it's completely redefining what actually makes a product manager valuable in the first place. But before we get into the exact mechanics of this shift, I actually want to ask you a slightly uncomfortable question. Seriously, be honest with yourself here. Are you actually learning product management, or are you just learning how to look like a PM? Because if your preparation is entirely focused on reciting popular frameworks, filling out Jira tickets, and polishing your backlog, well, you might be training for a version of this job that simply no longer exists. And here is exactly why that distinction matters so much. Listen to this. AI won't replace PMs. AI-powered PMs will replace the rest. Let that sink in. That reality establishes the ultimate stakes for everything we're going to cover today. The floor has been raised, the rules of the game have completely changed, and relying on the old methods in this new era, it's going to leave you entirely exposed. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The dangerous PM illusion. So, the illusion a lot of us suffer from is believing a PM is this crowned CEO of the product who just spends their day buried in paperwork, building these beautiful roadmaps and meticulously writing user stories. But the reality is completely different. Real companies do not hire PMs to recite agile terminology or organize tickets. They hire you to act as a fulcrum. They hire you for leverage. Leverage over decisions, leverage over priorities, and most importantly, leverage over uncertainty. Because people misunderstand that core reality, even highly capable people just plateau. They fall into 5 massive traps. First, they confuse motion with progress in the productivity trap. Second, they seek approval instead of seeking tension and clarity. Third, they hide behind frameworks like RICE or SWOT when things get a bit ambiguous. Fourth, they confuse executing a launch with having an actual strategy. And silently but fatally, they just ignore the unit economics of the business model they're supposedly building for. And this brilliantly illustrates that first major trap, confusing motion with progress. You know, motion feels great. You've got busy Slack channels, tickets flowing smoothly across the board, perfectly clean backlogs. It really looks like you're doing a fantastic job. But actual progress? That is the hard, unglamorous work of deciding what work actually deserves to exist in the first place. Optimizing for activity alone doesn't make you a product manager. It slowly turns you into a delivery coordinator. Section 2. The AI leverage shift. Right now, we're experiencing a massive execution shift, and it presents a pretty harsh truth. AI acts like this tireless robot, dramatically reducing the friction of execution. Building mockups, drafting documents, analyzing data, it's all getting incredibly cheap and fast. But here's the catch. Because the friction of building is lower, the cost of making a bad strategic decision is heavier than ever. When building is easy, bad strategy scales dangerously fast. The bottleneck isn't can we build this anymore, it's should we. This creates the real divide we're going to see over the next decade. On one side, you have AI-dependent PMs. They let the tools do the driving, blindly accept whatever outputs get generated, and just try to move fast. Now, that might get you an interview, but I promise you it won't save you in the boardroom when the data gets messy. Instead, you have to be AI multiplied. That means you pilot the AI to accelerate your reasoning, you apply strict economic filters, and you always maintain sharp, independent judgment. Section 3, the product leverage stack. Let's move to and see how this builds. To actually become AI multiplied, we need to master what's called the product leverage stack. It's made up of 4 essential interconnected layers: strategic framing, metric discipline, experiment engine, and AI multiplication. Think of this whole thing like an engine. If you remove or skip even one of these gears, the whole system just breaks down, and your overall impact shrinks drastically. The absolutely foundational layer here is strategic framing. This means defining the real problem, pinpointing exactly who feels it most intensely, and truly understanding the economic impact, and doing all of this before you even think about brainstorming solutions. This is absolutely crucial, because if you frame the wrong problem at the start, having perfect execution downstream is completely irrelevant. You'll literally just be efficiently building the wrong thing. Section 4, problems over features.
The author of our source material shares a brilliant rule of thumb here. If you start with a feature, you've already narrowed your thinking. They share a great real-world anecdote to back this up too. A product team wanted to build a customization feature simply because it sounded cool and customers were asking for it. But when they forced themselves to pause and actually frame the problem, they discovered the real bottleneck was checkout friction. Users were dropping off because of payment uncertainty, not a lack of options. If they had just rushed to build that feature, they would have completely missed the actual problem. That anecdote highlights the literal night and day difference between delivery and discovery. Delivery is the feature factory. It's all about shipping velocity, just pumping out boxes on a conveyor belt. And honestly, it feels incredibly safe and visible, but it's really just structured guessing. Discovery, on the other hand, is where the actual leverage lives. It's navigating the maze. It's about structured uncertainty reduction, validating your assumptions, and having the sheer discipline to kill weak ideas early before they eat up expensive engineering time.
So the crucial point is choosing your target wisely, which brings us to the one metric rule. At any given time, your product should have exactly one meaningful outcome metric that aligns all your roadmap decisions. Having just one metric creates gravity. It forces absolute clarity in prioritization and instantly exposes contradictions when someone wants to build a random feature that doesn't actually serve that single goal.
And that brings us to a dividing line that clearly separates the amateurs from the pros. Outputs versus outcome metrics. Outputs are just activity, right? It's running the stopwatch on features launched, PRDs written, sprint velocity, you get the idea. But outcomes, that's actual business impact. We're talking conversion rate improvements, shifts in retention curves, margin expansion. You cannot measure your success by what you ship. You have to measure it by what actually changed in user behavior and business economics because of the work you did. To reliably hit those actual outcomes, you need the third layer of the stack, the experiment engine. It's a very structured process. First, you define a real falsifiable hypothesis. Then, you trim it down to the absolute smallest test possible. You define that one metric that matters. You predefine your rules for success before you ever look at the data. That way you don't rationalize the results later. And finally, you kill ideas fast without letting ego get in the way, and you scare the winners hard. This whole process accelerates learning velocity way more than endless boredom debating ever could.
Section 5. Winning the AI era.
First things first, stop making visual design portfolios with pretty buttons and wireframes. Honestly, nobody cares. Start showcasing your structured thinking instead. Build a 4-project portfolio. Do a product teardown focused entirely on problem framing. Create a structured experiment design. Do a deep dive into the unit economics of a product. And finally, build an AI integration proposal that actually creates real business leverage. Doing this proves you're an operator, not just a feature enthusiast. Once you actually land the role, here is your survival guide for those crucial first 90 days. In month 1, resist the urge to just dive in and clean up the backlog. Instead, learn the system, the economics, and the core metrics. In month 2, build signal. Do not just say yes to everything. Choose one high-leverage opportunity and run it flawlessly. By month 3, you need to establish your identity. Lead a structured experiment end-to-end, present those findings, and build unbreakable trust with your engineering team. As you embark on this, I want you to remember this brutal but honestly necessary truth from the author. Creation is signal. Consumption is comfort. Listen, if you've been endlessly reading frameworks, scrolling through LinkedIn, and passively watching explainers without actually producing anything tangible, you're just hiding in your comfort zone. Stop reading and start producing structured, clear, and defensible evidence of your own judgment. As we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If AI suddenly disappeared tomorrow, would your value and leverage completely collapse, or would you just slow down a bit? If your professional identity depends entirely on the tools, you are fragile. But if the tools simply amplify your own sharp, independent thinking, you're incredibly powerful. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this vital shift in the industry. Now get out there and build some real leverage.